Hi, welcome to our series of short videos on using Google Classroom to facilitate and even enhance your class. In this video, we'll be covering the basics of Google Classroom, how Google Classroom is formatted, and what sorts of settings and options you have for structuring your Google Classroom. So let's get started. First, what is Google Classroom? Why are we using this? What can I do with it? Google Classroom is extremely powerful for virtually everything you would do in an in-person classroom, and then some. Interactions with students, so groups of students, one-to-one interactions, interaction between you and your students, between your students and each other, giving feedback, allowing students to ask questions about that feedback, making announcements to your class, giving updates to your class, letting them know about things that might be of interest, all without long strings of emails that you then have to dig for and try and find later on. It's all in one spot, very organized, very straightforward. Google Classroom is also useful for delivering all of your course materials. Everything from your agenda for the day to readings that students need to do before class, videos you want them to watch, maybe podcasts you want them to listen to, lectures that you may have recorded for asynchronous learning, or recordings of guest speakers. All of that is in Google Classroom. Everything from the things you would normally make paper copies of to the wealth of things available on the internet can be internet integrated into your Google Classroom. Another sort of part of the heart of Google Classroom is the assignments. You can deliver all of your graded and ungraded work via Google Classroom. Everything from homework, group work, group presentations, quizzes, exams, participation grades, all these things are within Google Classroom. One easy spot. No more students emailing you their papers or handing you a paper copy that you then have to track down later on. It's all already there for you, which segues into the grading function of Google Classroom. So, because all of your assignments are delivered by Google Classroom, all of your grading is also done in your classroom. And that's everything from automated grading for multiple choice questions or questions that are either they answered it or they didn't, graded on completion, participation grades, rubrics. There's a very robust rubric function that allows you to completely customize whatever rubric you want to use, to giving feedback on student work. It's very easy to give feedback and suggestions on everything from essays to short answer questions to presentations that students make. All of this is in your classroom. And so it's sort of up to you how creative you want to get with it, but there are a lot of different ways to use it, and we'll cover some of that here. So we'll be looking at a real Google Classroom in these videos, but let's talk a bit about what you'll see before we look at it. Google Classroom has sort of three sections to it. The stream, which is announcements, sort of notifications of things as they come up. The Classwork section, which is very much the heart of your Google Classroom. That's where all of your resources for students are, all their assignments, all their readings, everything that students need is in the Classwork section. And the People and Grades sections. And this is your class roster and a way to reach out to students, either individually or as a whole class, and your gradebook of all of your students and their assignments. What do these look like? So the stream looks a little like the homepage for a website, and it will have all your announcements on it. The Classwork section, this has all of the things, all the resources that your students need organized by class meeting or by week into these very tidy sections. And we'll look more at that in later videos. And the People and Grades section, so like I said, class roster. So let's have a look at a demo Google Classroom that I've made. So to find a Google Classroom, you can just go to classroom.google.com. Again, that's classroom.google.com. And you need to be logged into your institutional email account for this. When you go to that website, you will see all of the Google Classrooms that you are a teacher of. We're going to use this one So I'm going to click on it, and you can see when I click on that Google Classroom, I go immediately to the Stream page. This is the home page of my Google Classroom. And you can see that I've actually made an announcement for my students. Hi everyone, here is an announcement. And this is something that my students will be email notified about when I post it. In order to make a new announcement, perhaps I want to say, remember that we are having a guest speaker in class today. I just type that in there. I want this to go to all students so that all of my students are notified about it. If I hit post, it will post to the stream immediately, and all students will receive the notification immediately. But I have other options. If I click this caret next to post, you'll see that I can post it, I can schedule it, or I can save it as a draft. If I save it as a draft, that means I'm not ready to post it yet. Maybe I'm still trying to find some information that I wanted to put in it. It then appears up here in my saved announcements. If I want to edit it, just click on it. It's open for editing again. Say now that I'm ready to post it, except what if my guest speaker's coming tomorrow? Maybe they're coming at 9 a.m. in my class tomorrow, and I don't want to have to wake up early just to post this announcement before the guest speaker comes on that day. I might use this schedule function. So underneath post, I'm going to pick schedule. I'm going to say guest speaker's coming tomorrow. Post this announcement at 8 a.m. Hit schedule. And you can see in my saved announcements, this will now automatically post itself at 8 a.m. on the day that my guest speaker is coming. This is a very convenient function. So the other sections of the Google Classroom that we talked about, here's the Classwork tab. Remember I said this is the heart of your Google Classroom, and you can see for each course meeting, there's a topic of what that meeting is about, and there are a couple sections that appear in all of them. Required reading. If you click that, here are the required readings and the citations for them. Recommended readings, same thing. Here are the recommended readings and the citations for them. Other resources, say I wanted to give my students a video to watch before class and the citation for this video. The agenda for the day, organized by times. My slides, if I want my students to have a copy of my slides. And on this day there's an exam and a couple other things that we'll get into in later videos. But that's all here in this section. Under the People tab, you can see I'm the teacher of this course. Here are my students. If I wanted to email all of my students, I just click this box, pick Actions, and I can email my students as a group, or I can email just one student, for instance, or groups of students. Maybe you have them doing group work, for instance. Under Grades, you can see here are the assignments that I've posted. And for some of them, students have turned in assignments that I could go and grade and then return to my students. We'll cover lots more about that in later videos. And there's one more thing that I want to talk about in this section, which is your class Google Calendar. So you and your students automatically have access to a Google Calendar that is associated with your class. And you can post anything you want on that calendar, and all of your students will automatically get it on their calendars. So there are some things, for instance, when you schedule assignments, those assignments will automatically appear on the Google Calendar so that students have reminders of them and can easily see what's due and when. And also your class meetings will appear on that calendar. So class meetings with times and links if you're meeting online, assignment due dates for readings, homework, exam. Say you have readings due for that class, it'll show up on the calendar before that class. Combined class meetings, so notifications if they're meeting with another group, or guest speakers. And guest speakers can actually be invited to the events on the Google Calendar so that they have the link, for instance, if they're video conferencing in. Let's have a look at this in the demo Google Classroom. I'm going to go back, click my Classwork tab. So right here, Classwork in the middle. If you ever can't find anything, it's probably in this tab. At the top of the page, you'll see Google Calendar. This is my class Google Calendar. Well, watch what happens if I click this. It pulls up my own regular Google Calendar. But if I look under my calendars, scroll down, you can see that it's added a calendar to my own Google Calendar that has the name of my course. That's appeared just by pressing that button in my Google Classroom. And so what's on this calendar? Here's our course meeting. And if I click on that event, this is a class that is meeting online. So here's the video conferencing information for me to link in to that event when it's time to teach. And for my students, remember, this same thing appears for them when they click on Google Calendar in the Google Classroom. So they automatically have the links to all your course meetings. And you can see there's also an assignment due on the same day. So your class calendar is a very, very convenient feature. You can add new things to it, like remember we have a guest speaker. If you have something that you want to show up on your students' Google Calendars. So that's all for this video. In the next video, we'll start to look at all of the other things that you can post in your classroom itself. So follow on to that video if you're interested in that. Thanks.